I'm Guy Kesteman, the Tester-Man, and this is my first ride intro to the Stumpjumper Evo Expert. Hey up, Jay. So, Stumpjumper 15, introduced last summer as the one trail bike to rule them all, and then rather hastily afterwards they've introduced the Evo, because on the original Stumpjumper they took a rather radical step of reducing travel from where they'd been with the previous Stumpjumper Evo, which had been widely regarded as one of the best all-round trail bikes of all time, and I'd certainly agree with that. So they'd back the rear travel off to 145 and reduce the fork to 150. And to be honest, ow, shin. Oh, shouldn't have dodged that rock. It was a brilliant bike, really agile, and because of the Genie shock on the back, that 145 mil of travel felt like a whole lot more. However, it seems like punters love a bigger number. So what they've done with the Evo is stuck a 160 mil fork in it. Oh, classic. Oh. So what they've done with the Evo is used exactly the same frame, but stuck a 160 fork in it and made that Genie into a piggyback. So you've got more fork travel, nice little ditch jump there, and then male damping oil deployed at the rear for longer, rowdier descents. This is officially off-piste exploring. See why I haven't done this for a while. Just need to push through on it. There we go. And adding that 10 mil more travel also just tips the angles back a bit. So 64 head now, and then 76 degree seat angle as standard. And apart from that change on the suspension, I mean, it's still top quality, it's still performance elite, both ends, 36 up front, Flirt X shock at the rear. The biggest, most obvious change is this huge rider bar on the front. They've gone almost BMX lift for the current downhill fashion, and obviously with more travel as well and a piggyback, it's really pushing into more of a kind of gravity vibe for this Stumpjumper now, yeah, which does fit the Evo nomenclature. Whoa, hello. Oh, I should mention, bars are pretty wide on this S4. Like everything else on this bike, it's actually pretty well adjusted for different sizes, bars, saddle width, crank, seat post drop, chainstays are all size specific to a certain extent. And on the smaller bikes, so S1 and S2, it's mullet, so 27.5 rear wheel is standard. Because it's not a long bike, but 64 degree head angle means it's pretty stable, even though the breech is only 470 mil. What's effectively the large size. And also, this T9 butcher up front is basically poor man's Schwalbe radial. Just super composed, ultra damped, hyper grippy tyre. So even when it's brand new, like it is now, probably still got some release compound in, just sits the bike onto the trail super smoothly. And then you've got all that Genie technology to talk about on the rear shock, where you're using an extra air sleeve over the top, which is access to the first 70% of the stroke to give a really smooth, linear feel, and then closes off with the last 30% to go to give more ramp up. So, if I remember my figures correctly, it uses the same amount of stroke to absorb an impact, 1018 Newton meters I think it is, as the 170mm Enduro. But it's a lot more, it's 36% better bump absorption and reduced bottom out all through that basic can setup. Plus, you can also change the number of rings in that Genie can. So you can actually set it up full of rings for a much more sort of traditional punchy feel, or leave it empty for that very pillowy linear coil feel with a ramp up at the end. And it literally takes less than a minute, as long as you've got a circlip pick at hand. It's really quick and easy job to do, even on trail side. But I don't know if you can hear, just, oh, I'm gonna have to move that log before I try that. Right, here we go. Here we go. And that just kind of sums it up, really. It just feels outrageously kind of just casually capable now. Just like nothing's gonna phase it. And this bike has actually been raced in some of the World Cup Enduros by the Specialzed pros instead of the Enduro. And it's got, you know, it's equipped to match as well. So you got those big SRAM Maven brakes. It's the basic silver model, but it's still super powerful. 200mm rotors either end, so they're not even bedded in yet, but huge amounts of power. The only thing I would be a bit nervous about is this is only the grid trail spec of tyre. So, nearly dabbed then. So, relatively lightweight, thin wall. So, yes, they're on a good wide rim, this Traverse alloy rim, but you know, they're not a reinforced sidewall or anything like that. So, you are relying on that last 30% of shock stroke to really ramp up, to kind of collect the impact before you rim out. And also, that change to an Evo had added some weight. So, high-rise bars add a bit of weight, piggyback shock adds some weight. Don't think a longer fork's going to add any weight, but overall, it's gained about 400 grams, so just shy of £1. So this comes in at exactly 15 kilos for this S4 without pedals, but with the SWAT storage hatch and bottle cage on it. Because again, it's got all those super practical features like best in business internal storage. You know, they Specialized pioneered it, and I'd still say they do it better than anyone else. Adds less weight than other systems. Got a really big door on it, so you can fit all sorts of stuff in it. It's relatively weather tight and just works. You know, you're not fighting with whatever you put in there, which is the case with a lot of bikes where they've gone for that system. And also, you know, frame weight for this bike is still only 2.8 kilos, which is lighter than quite a few 120mm bikes, and that's with shock. So you've definitely got the opportunity to make it a really light and lively all-rounder. But then if you did want that shorter travel, slightly steeper, more agile feel, then you can still buy that original Stumpjumper 15, and in the same spec as this bike, so GX Axis. It's actually not only lighter on the trail, it's lighter on your wallet by a significant amount too, because they've reduced the price to, I think it's 4,672 from 5,999, which is what this still is. So if you want that OG, slightly more trail rather than gravity feel, then that's an absolute bargain, especially as you now get limited lifetime warranty on frame and wheels from Specialized. But the plus size is that eliminator on the back. It's a relatively fast rolling tread, and it's T7 compound. So while that front butcher is a slow and sticky customer, you've at least got some decent roll on the rear if you keep centered. Just feels like you're going to cough along if you get over the front out of the saddle. But you've got pedal switch on the shock anyway, as well as full rebound and low speed compression adjust, as well as that Genie shock adjustment and conventional volume spacer adjustment as well, in a sort of main shock underneath. You can still do all the same tuning with that. You just got that extra tuning. You've just got that extra Genie tuning on top as well. And the adjustment doesn't stop with the shock either. You've also got a huge amount of geometry adjustment on this bike. So you've got adjustment in the shock mount. Oh mate, oh you bastard, you absolute stalling bastard. Well, I haven't now, have I? I'm bloody stuck. Let's try that again. Better. Slightly. So, you've got adjustment on the shock shuttle. You've got adjustable headset cups. And you've got a chip at the rear axle as well. So, you can change ride height, you can change effective chainstay length, and you can change geometry by 2 degrees. So from a 63 degree head tube to 65. And that's greasy. One of the main reasons I've got this bike in. I was interested to see what changes they'd done to the bike to make it Evo, because I loved the original bike, but also a load of you were wanting suspension setup features. So I thought, well, why not get in the bike with the most adjustable suspension around, because it'll run coil as well. if needs be. And also, then with the same bike, we can look at Geo as well, because Geo is super adjustable on this Stumpy. So that's pretty much the first look done, but you can look forward to a whole series of not only tweak and upgrade and product test videos involving this bike, like I did with that Chisel Evo, which, if you recognise, the same woods I rode that in its most tweaked format, but also doing a head-to-head with this bike and the Epic Evo to see which bike is naturally going to suit you, where they overlap, where they're obviously different, but also, like I say, doing a load of sort of basic suspension and geometry videos as well to help you set up whatever bike you've got to ride as well as it can. So it seemed like there was a real appetite for those. But the good news with this Special is it actually comes with a really accurate setup guide online. So apart from letting out a bit of fork pressure, I've run this on the recommended numbers. It feels really good. Again, just feels really neutral and easy to ride. Even, especially in this more open kind of linear mode, which is just hoovering its way up here. And actually, pedaling surprisingly well. So remember at launch, just say I stuffed a load of tokens in. But now Ryan's riding off, because I'm chatting too much. Can't fault the traction though. Even with that big high-rise bar, adding a bit of wonder to the steering. And obviously it's slacker too. In head angle and seat angle. So, as usual, any comments, any questions, get busy on the keys, let me know below. And also, let's get started on what you want to see me chat about in terms of suspension and Geo in these upcoming features. That's enough chat. It's getting sticky now. So I hope you've enjoyed the first ride on the Stumpjumper Evo as much as I have. Thanks to Specialzed for supporting the upcoming series. Let me know what you want to see. And get used to seeing a lot more of this super capable, super friendly bike for some educational Guy Case TV content in the near future.